If you're not reaching out to somebody that you think you can build a relationship with and build community with that can help you do something you're already doing, that's not the place you want to be. You, Matt, and Evan did not reach out to you, Matt, and Evan to help. You built it yourselves.
I can't tell you how many times that's happened. People will get me on the phone and they have no answers to the first questions I start asking. People think, oh, I have a great idea. I'm going to pitch it to somebody and they're going to do everything. I'm not obsessing over what you are. That's your thing. Go do it.
Is that much of it? That's not much of a change for you, right?
My name is Carey. I used to load bombs in the Air Force, and now I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and an entrepreneur. Through using the post 9/11 GI Bill to go to college, working hourly jobs to pay the bills, and freelancing my way into a career, I've studied what it takes to successfully transition from service to civilian, and that study has become a conversation. On this podcast, I speak to other veterans, successful artists and entrepreneurs about their transition, what they did well, where they failed, what they learned, and most importantly, how they applied their skills. Episode 91 features Jared Taylor, one of the co-founders of Black Rifle Coffee, Article 15 Clothing, and Lead Slinger Spirits. He co-produced Range 15 the movie and co-hosts Drinkin' Bros podcast, as well as Time for Pie. Welcome. This is Veteran Made.
What's up, y'all? This episode is brought to you once again by Go Pills, my new favorite nootropic that I've been stacking with other nootropics that I already use. Once again, just a great product that I have been enjoying and seeing the benefits of, both from an acuity standpoint as well as a functionality standpoint. One super important thing that the brand and I have spoken about is that those of us that were in the military, regardless of where we served, how we served, in what capacity we served, we all came into contact with different chemicals, different percussions, and various elements of the environments that we served in that have affected our brain health, which also obviously has affected a lot of our mental health as well. So as I think about using this product, I'm thinking about right now, but I'm also thinking about the future. And we all need to be thinking that way because of the environments we served in, the things that we did, and the events that we experienced. So code VM15 at checkout, gopills.com. That's code VM15 for 15% off. Grab yourself a bottle, give it a shot. Enjoy the episode. All right, we are live and we have waited the appropriate amount of time for Riverside. Good afternoon for me. Good morning for you. Jared Taylor, welcome to Veteran Made.
Hello. Excited to be here.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you. Appreciate you reaching out. Appreciate that we're able to make this happen. We've got a mutual friend in Aaron Love.
Yes, indeed. One's ready. Is really good organization they got going on over there.
Yeah, they're doing all right. They're doing okay. They've kind of figured some things out along the way. Normally, I would ask for people who don't know who the guest is to give a brief intro and primer, but I think everybody does probably know who you are. But you are working on a bunch of different things right now. Can you give us a bit of an update on what you have, what pots you have your hands in at the moment, and then we can kind of jump into some entrepreneurial questions from there.
Oh man, well, I mean, I guess it's I can start from where it started. You know, I've been moonlighting since about 2005. So I had only been in the military for 2 years at that point when I started kind of doing other things the second I got off work when I was home and not deployed. Back then I worked for a body armor company, both in their kind of R&D side as well as their graphic design side, building the website, building graphics, building buttons, building email tiles and things of that nature. So I've been doing this for a really long time, actually. And the fun part about that beginning stuff with the body armor company was just me being a creative person. I was constantly searching for a better way to build my kit. So I was coming up with different fasteners and different things to kind of manipulate, you know, the weight distribution, make it more comfortable, make it comfortable with a bag, like a backpack, because as a JTAC, we have to carry, you know, heavy radios and heavy batteries. So we always have a backpack on. So, okay, how do you configure a chest rig to just be more comfortable with a backpack on. And from there, I moved to, I went to instruct the TACP school. And while I was there, that's kind of where the TACP swag store existed, was at the schoolhouse. So the only time you could buy anything with TACP crest or any of our kind of historical lineage on t-shirts and stuff was at the school. So while I was there, I pushed the store online. So learned how to build an e-commerce, back then it was just called a shopping cart, or how to build a store, using, Yahoo tools. And this is all, this is like 2008, 2009, 2010. So this is all very kind of primitive, when you talk about the internet boom and everything like that, like learning this back then was all very brand new. So that got me versed in like e-commerce, how to even get credit card processing was like something that was, you had to learn back then, like because it's not as easy as it is now, where you have 30 different tech companies that offer payment processing or a point of sale, a POS system. Like back then it was very few. You had like Stripe, PayPal, and that was about it. Yahoo Business, Yahoo Shopping Cart, one of those things. So I cut my teeth on that, then met Matt Best, and we created Article 15 clothing. Or prior to that, I had a store called Beer Drinking Bomb Droppers that was a JTAC based store with a fellow combat controller. Him and I operated that for about a year and a half, and then that's when I met Matt, and we went more into the general military, comedy space of Article 15 clothing, and from there branched off into Lead Slinger Spirits, where we did a liquor kind of venture for a number of years, selling whiskey, rye whiskey, bourbon, and eventually branched into rum and did some vodka and things like that. So that was a very interesting kind of venture, learning how the liquor business worked with distribution and following the rules of the ATF and everything like that. And then shortly after that we had met Evan by that time, because Evan came in on Lead Slingers with us. And that was kind of the first real business that we partnered on. And then Evan came to us with the idea of Black Rifle Coffee. So we jumped in and just went full force with that. And all at the same time, teamed up with our direct competitor at the time, Ranger Up, and produced a full feature movie that actually went to theaters in 2016, and pushed into the podcast space in 2015. This is when podcasting was extremely new. It was a young little baby, and there was only a few of us in the comedy kind of genre. So I do have really cool screenshots of Joe Rogan and us in number 2 from back then. We were lucky enough with Drinkin' Bros to get pushed into the Spotify selected 50 shows back in 2016. And for a few years, they only had 50 shows. So we were one of those. So we were always on the homepage, and that grew the show substantially. In addition to the podcast, we created this gigantic network within Drinkin' Bros, which, by 2019, Facebook had invited us out to speak and was telling us that we were one of the largest interconnected group, like formulation of groups that Facebook had seen. And they were very curious as to how we did that. And, at one point there were over 360 Drinkin' Bros groups, whether that be for specific interests like Drinkin' Bros Fitness or Drinkin' Bros Off-Road, but we also had location base, Drinkin' Bros Austin, Drinkin' Bros San Antonio, Drinkin' Bros Atlanta. So you had all these regions, and you had all these people that were talking amongst themselves and getting together, holding parties and meetups, and kind of following the whole original goal that with Drinkin' Bros that was never drink alone again. So
Yeah.
From there, we, Black Rifle continued to grow. We had a number of other things sprout out from that. We had started Launch Code years ago, which was it started as Blackhearted. That was me, Evan, and Matt just talking about business. We had rebranded it to Launch Code, where we just had interviewed business owners and tried to focus on a specific expertise that they had. So essentially our goal was, if a veteran got out, you could listen to all of our shows and you would cover legal and cover marketing and cover, HR. And then we eventually rebranded that to Free Range American, which became just kind of like our show of all around really cool people, which then rebranded to the Black Rifle Coffee Podcast, where now Evan is the sole host, but I think we're going to go back and switch that back to Free Range American to kind of pull it away from the coffee company itself and be an independent show that's not owned by the company, but owned by Evan, myself, Matt, everybody. That's like, okay, that's our show that anybody can come on and kind of share their story or share what they're pushing. And then a couple years ago, I got to be a part of Nine Line Apparel. So joined Tyler Merritt on that team, and I've been working a lot with their marketing department. I joined up with Ross and Dan with Hard as Fuck Seltzer last year. So a part of that, again, back into the liquor business, back into the distribution, canned goods type stuff. So and then I have a rock band, a pop punk rock band I've been navigating the music industry lately, and am not quite recovered yet enough from Range 15 to do another movie, but someday hope to do another movie. But again, so I've just been kind of all over the place when it comes to different markets and verticals.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, what is it, does being an entrepreneur drive your creativity, or does being a creative drive your entrepreneurial spirit?
I would say it's the latter. So being creative, like I just like to make things, like, but I also like to like I look at anybody's business as a challenge to speak to your customer and tell the story. So like, I just think that's cool, and it comes very easy to me. So anybody can come to me and go, well, I have a business that does this. And I immediately start trying to pick apart, okay, if this was my business, how would I sell to that customer? What would I offer them that makes them choose me? Because one of the greatest things, like if you really truly look back at any product that Black Rifle Coffee has, any product that Article 15 Clothing created, like Lead Slingers, all that stuff, all we were was creating things that we would buy, that we would want. And that's how we designed them. When we designed Lead Slingers, we strictly said we wanted it to taste good. We wanted it to taste good mixed, and we wanted it to be below $30 a bottle. Like, it was like that's something I would buy. Like, it's something that an E5 in the military would be like, that's my jam. I'm sold. Like, so we were always designing things that we were the customer first. And then we just kind of portrayed that product forward facing to the audience, and the rest just kind of fell into place because it was something that they resonated with.
Yeah, it's a super truthful and authentic way to approach it, which are, kind of a douchey way of saying something that's just true. That I think most marketers, especially at like large corporations, don't understand, is that, like, if you're not marketing from a community-based standpoint, definitely if you're not a part of that community, you're not going to understand who it is that you're selling to. And at that point, you're just selling to them, and then it's just transactional. There's no relationship, there's no community, and then there's a large or a growing gap between you and your consumer over time.
And what's funny about how you mentioned that is they were so late to the party, because all your major entrepreneur business and marketing magazines and things didn't start screaming community until 2021. And this was when Drinkin' Bros had already been 7 years old. And it was like, oh, you guys are just figuring this out now, that rallying an entire affinity group of people around what you're doing and truly offering them something way beyond what any other business is offering. Like, I just think it was funny to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the military has always been that way. I think you were at the forefront of like almost like commoditizing that in a good way, right? Like putting it out and saying like, oh, the military is already this way. Each MOS, each AFSC, each branch, each group kind of has their thing. Well, you can actually monetize this, and you can create something that you can then sell that people are going to then want, which will continue to build more community. It's not actually going to break that community down. It's going to build that community up. And then it's also going to give opportunities for these other kind of subsets within each of those communities to come together and relate over certain things or have a healthy rivalry over certain things.
Yeah.
Back in 2003 or so, sorry, when were you at the TACP school? When did you put the shop on the internet?
2010 pretty much, or no, 9, I'm sorry.
2009. What like were you into web and design and all that stuff as a kid, like early before you got into the military?
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I was learning HTML code. So this was like 99, 98, 2000. My high school offered a web design class for the first year that I was in, and I was the only one that had built a site before. So the teacher essentially, made everybody follow the lesson plan, but he had me going way beyond to teach him. So as he taught this class, he knew more than just front page, because that was like the Windows 2000 came out that year, and the Microsoft suite had Microsoft Front Page, which was the web builder that Microsoft created. Well, so what was cool was, back then software was incredibly expensive, and you had to have a disk in the computer for it to work. It's not just streaming or downloading like everything else is now. So I was able to work on things that I would never be able to afford, which was like Flash Fireworks, which was the original Adobe suite, Macromedia Flash. So like in the year 2000, Flash sites were the future. It was, E-Bombs World and Ill Will Press and all these original, internet viral websites were using Macromedia Flash and Fireworks. So I was learning animation in Flash. I was using Blender in its early years, Fruity Loops, which is now FL Studio 7. This is early beat creation, music creation, like MIDI, like these are all the original softwares. 3D modeling in 3D Studio Max, in Bryce 3D. Bryce 3D is what builds all of your landscapes. Poser 4 was to create characters, humans that you could animate, things like that. But I mean, we didn't have the computing power. So like there were times I spent days upon days creating a computer animation, and I go to hit render and it's like, oh, this is going to take 3 weeks.
Yeah. What where did that interest come from, and what made you decide on the military first before kind of getting into the creative field professionally?
Well, the interest was just general art. Like this was just a new form. And Toy Story had just come out around these times. Like Pixar was the future. It was like, oh, computer animation, everything with computers. It was like the revolution, the whole digital revolution was happening. So what I was thinking, my train of thought was, if I'm learning this now, I'm going to be ahead of the curve, and I want to eventually work inside, the movie film production space. I was a skateboarder, so I was also editing on the computer at the time, video, since I was 14. So like, the people that are just now picking up a phone and trying to edit with Reels Editor and TikTok, it's like, no, I've been doing this since 1996 pretty much. And yeah, if I flip the camera over here, you'll see this massive, movie style editing bay right here where we can essentially create a movie. But the military was just an obsession as well. My dad was in the Navy. I loved all the Rambos. We played Army in the woods my entire childhood growing up. So becoming a SEAL or doing something super sneaky, cool, special ops was always something I wanted to attempt. And then getting in the Air Force, getting the chance to go into TACP, like that was really cool. I loved it. I loved the time frame in which I got to serve, because I kind of got the thicket of the conflicts, and I got to see and do the job how it was essentially like built and theorized on paper. Whereas, generations before me never got to do that, like, because there was no war in which close air support was being used with a ground controller. So it was like, to me, I just felt super lucky. I was at one of the best units that you could be at coming out of the schoolhouse, which was the 14th ASOS at Fort Bragg. And I got two really awesome deployments with great units and learned a metric shit ton. And then I essentially came back and just said, I wanted to help recruit for the career field. So that's when I put my film background and knowing how to use and operate cameras and edit to the test, and really started diving into making content for the TACP career field.
Where and when were you deployed? Because I was a loader. I was a 2W1. Were you in
That
Afghanistan?
was my original AFSC was 2W0X1.
Yeah.
That was what I was supposed to go. I went in as, and then volunteered for TACP while I was there. I was in Iraq in 2005. So I started at Camp Victory in the Al Fall Palace in the Corps Joint Operations Center, working for the actual theater of operations. That was very cool, watching how a war is planned and executed in front of your face at the strategic level. I spent 4 months essentially analyzing data and watching how our air resources were utilized in theater, and then creating reports for the generals so they could brief the general that's running the theater, which was then General Vines. And then we would make adjustments. So it was like my job was really a data analyst, like looking at how many fighter jets flew that day, how many bombs were dropped, how many bombs were almost dropped, why didn't we drop the ones that we didn't drop, why did we drop the ones that we did drop, who's in what region is constantly in the most trouble, what is our response time with fighter aircraft to help ground units. So it was things like that. Like, that's things I briefed every day, telling the general, hey, our troops in contact response time right now average is 12 minutes. So if a ground unit starts taking fire and they're overwhelmed to the point where the ground commander says, bring in close air support, we are getting them a jet overhead within X amount of minutes. And we're constantly, we're like a McDonald's drive-through. We're trying to drive those times down. So we're constantly moving pieces around the entire theater. We're moving tankers. We're moving constant air patrols. We're moving ground CAS, which is where you stage aircraft. So it's just a big giant war puzzle game that was real life. And then I moved up to Mosul in June of 05, in August of 05. And that's where the fighting started. I fell under the 172nd Stryker Brigade, and that was a lot of fun. And then I deployed again in Baghdad in 2007.
Got it. Yeah, I was at Bagram in 08 and 10. It's actually cool, super cool to hear you describe that, because it's a bit of a full circle moment for me. Because like the most, as a loader, not leaving the wire, the most action you get is when an alert scramble call comes in, and you're trying to be the fastest person to the jet to arm it and get it taxied so it can take off. So, and then that was something that we were always told was like, hey, yeah, it's a fun competition for us that are here at Bagram, but really driving those times down is important, because there's troops in contact out there that actually need this shit, that we're arming and taxiing out. So that's pretty cool to hear that. On the entrepreneurial front, creative front, you started working to use your skills to help recruit, and you were teaching, you were cadre. I'm curious, like looking back now, you are so prolific and are doing so much now. So much of our audience thinks about, how do I get into something and just do one thing or do two things or do three things. As you look back on your journey, did you have more fun trying to get into this space and doing stuff in the upfront, or do you have more fun now that you have more experience, or is that even the wrong question?
I think it's both. I think you have you have way more fun, when you're hungry and you're what ifing everything to death and you're like, wow, that would be nice. Because you look at things that are, in my case, I was looking at things that were damn near impossible, never going to happen. Absolutely not. Like, if you went and told me in 2011 or 12 that I would eventually be a producer on Gymkhana, like, there's no, I would be like, how in the hell did I somehow find my way into being on set of a Gymkhana and then helping write it and helping produce it? So I would have just been like, what? So there is fun. There's this series, this excitement. I mean, I remember, I don't forget that back in the day, like when I would reach out to just super low level creators on YouTube that I was a fan of because of their talent, not necessarily their celebrity or how big they were. And when we would start a conversation, like, I would get super amped. I mean, that's how I found Ross Patterson, the host partner in Drinking Bros, partner in Hard AF and director of Range 15. I was a fan of his movies. I held an actual release party at my house for FDR American Badass because I was waiting for that movie to come out. And I had everybody from, all my friends that I loved from the unit come out, and we sat in my garage because I had my photo studio in there. So I projected on the white backdrop, and we all watched FDR American Badass. And as soon as it was over is when the credits rolled, and I saw written by, directed by, and then one of my favorite characters in the movie was the same person. And I went, well, wait a minute, I want to know that guy. So the next morning I got on Facebook and I search his name and I find him, and I just start cold messaging him, just saying, hey, I really enjoyed the movie. I like what you're doing. I ended up watching all your other movies after I realized that you wrote this and directed it. And I want to do what you do someday. And, of course he laughed. Like, of course I hear that all the time. Everybody says they want to make movies and yada, yada, yada. Well, then a couple years go by and we have the idea for Range 15. And now I go back to this guy and I say, hey, we have a script, we have a concept, and we have a way to get funding. Like, would you talk to us? And he did. And I mean, the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say to people right now who have, I guess, for lack of a better word, are scared to do that kind of outreach?
Well, first off, if you don't have, you have to find where your value is. If you're just reaching out to ask for a favor, just stop. Because nobody wants that. Nobody, especially, in my position now, I get 100 of those calls a week or texts. Hey dude, could I get this? And it's like, I've not heard from you in 10, 15 years. I wasn't even hanging out with you or that close to your friend even then. Why do you think, how many people have been like, dude, could you get me in front of Pastrana so I could pitch him on something? I'm like, no. Why? I don't do that. And I'm one of the guy's best friends. Why would I do this for you? And oh, by the way, what is it that you even think that you have to offer somebody like that? So it's you have to define what it is that your value is. And what I was doing then is my value was a window into the military community that nobody had created yet. It just didn't exist. When Matt and I started, there was no real military comedy. There was no sketch comedy. There was nothing speaking to the service member about all this shit that we were facing every day, with war and everything like that. And so it was that's where my value was defined, was as we grew with Article 15 clothing, when I would reach out to these bigger names outside, of just the general entertainment world, it was, hey, come and do something with us. And we speak to the veteran. And so yeah, I'm like, I know that not everybody's going to be able to do what I'm explaining here, but when you define your value, whatever it is that you're the expert on, that someone could use to their advantage, then use that as your cold open. Um, and if you're creating a product, you have to design value behind the product. You can't wake up and go, "Oh, I have a coffee company too," but you don't know anything about coffee. That's one of the things is like Evan's hobby for over a decade before creating the company was coffee. That was his hobby. That's just like I will get off this microphone and sit on the stage to my right here and play guitar for probably 40 minutes when we're done. Like Evan would do that with coffee. So if you ask me a question about playing music or writing music and things like that, I can speak to it very educatedly because it's what I just do all the time. Well, that was Evan with coffee. So it's like he took something that he was an expert in and then turned it into a business. And Matt and I plugged into how we could share that with everybody and get people excited about it. And, all three of us make it really cool, like, and make it fun and make it for us. So like, that's where I think some people go wrong in when they launch out to do their entrepreneurial dreams. Oh, I'm going to start a shirt company. I'm going to start a coffee company. I'm going to start this. It's like, but did you know anything about that? Like when it came to t-shirts with me, I've been designing things inside Photoshop since 2002, 3. I know art. I know how to take what I draw on a piece of computer paper and I know how to digitize it and I know how to vectorize and I know how to use Illustrator and things like that. So like when it comes to, oh, I want to make shirts. Well, I started with the base that I know how to do artwork.
Yeah.
So that's another thing and these are all things I've seen where people just, they pop up, they go, oh, I'm going to start this. Yeah. But do you know how to do graphic design? Do you know how to come up with, do you have any good ideas of things that people will actually wear or be excited about?
Yeah, for sure. I always make the joke of like, the last thing our community needs is another podcast or a t-shirt company, right? And so it's like when I decided to start a podcast, I knew that it had to be very targeted within our community to say like, all right, I am going to be a non-combat MOS AFSC guy who's going to speak about transitioning successfully into a creative and entrepreneurial field, interview other people who can bring similar anecdotes that we can kind of grow that knowledge base instead of just being like, oh yeah, I'm just going to talk to other vets. Because you look at all these podcasts, like everybody makes the rounds going on all the same podcasts, talking about all the same shit over and over and over again. And so there's no real value outside of some of the OG podcasts, obviously, but the ones that have kind of caught.
You can see that in Time for Pie. 8 months ago, me, Caleb, and Dave started Time for Pie, which was a new show. Again, taking into consideration everything you just said. What I was tired of is we would all have the same guess. The guy, whoever came on Drinking Bros would then go over to Glover's and then go over to Stumps and then go over to Jocko's and then go over. They would do this circle. And it was like, but they're telling the same story on each show. So it's like where we all have to come up with what our own value is. So it's not just the same interview 10 times and you're hearing the same thing. And that's where I was like, well, I just want to do something that is nonsense. There is no model. There's no flow. It is just 1 hour of you're going to laugh or be disgusted. And there's nothing in there that's either there's zero controversy. There's no drama. Like Time for Pie is just nonsense. And that's the thing is it's there if you want it. Like if you want something that you're not going to get irritated with as you're driving to work because someone wants to bring up, how bad the economy is or how bad the administration is or how much, the DOD is in shambles right now and recruiting sucks. It's like, no. If you just want that escape of entertainment, like here it is. And my strategy on that was also the fact that we're in the next like 7 months where social media is almost just unbearable because it's the election cycle, and that's all the spears being thrown across. So it's like, hey, if we came in and just offered something fun for people in a time where social media isn't fun, maybe they'll come over to our side of the playground.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great strategy. A kind of a similar one where it's like I don't never talk about politics, but we don't really talk about politics. It's like, well, okay, everybody's going to be so focused on this other thing. Maybe somebody's going to want some practical advice or some practical stories and some ways that they can learn some things that aren't just the same shit they're hearing everywhere else. Even and especially with the political stuff, because that's all just going to be the same shit over and over again as well. I just lost my other question here.
Well, I would also, to like finish this out, like, again, if you're out there, like, and you want to truly be like, truly make some ground in something you have in your head. Like, I'm not trying to be Gary V on this, but I don't know if this is something he said, but your idea sucks. Like, I'm just going to say that all my ideas suck. When you, so keep that in mind. If you are like, man, I just need to get in front of somebody so I could pitch them my ideas, don't stop. Like, that is infuriating, and it will gain you no ground. Like, there is no such thing as $1 million idea. There's such thing as $1 million worth of execution. So if you're in the idea phase, it's now time for you to build your plan. So your energy is not focused on getting in front of people and is not focused on trying to build a network and talk to people. Your energy has to be strictly focused on building out what your idea actually is and how you are going to execute it. I cannot tell you how many times people get in front of me and they go, oh, well, I have this idea for this product. And I go, where do you even manufacture that? And their answer is, I don't know. Okay, well then why are we talking about this? You don't even know how to build your prototype, and you want to get me on the phone and ask for money or resources or anything. Like, you're not there. If you have an idea, your first order of business is to become an expert of that idea. That's from the concept to the hands of the customer. And if you don't have an answer for everything in that chain, you are not ready to talk to anybody.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I was going to say that if you need to reach out, if you're not reaching out to somebody that you think you can build a relationship with and build community with that can help you do something you're already doing, then you should be scared to reach out to ask for something, because that's not the place you want to be. You, Matt, and Evan did not reach out to you, Matt, and Evan to help. You just built it yourselves. Like, you got together as the co-founders and built Black Rifle, and you and Matt built other things, and you had built other things. It's a series of actions that were taken within a small community that you were building. You weren't relying on anybody else to do it for you or to help you or to kind of get you that. It's obviously like the definition of bootstrapping, but it's also
stairs, like, because we're using our experience. Like, oh, we've already done an e-commerce site. We know how to do that. We can do that in minutes, like, because we've already done it. So it's like that now is taken care of. And now it's now the focus is, how do we in Evan's lap of, how do I manufacture premium coffee with my roast profile? So that's where he's going and finding that. Like, he's not just, hey, that wasn't the thing. When Evan picked up the phone and said, would you guys run a coffee on Article 15 for Black Friday called Dark Roasted Freedom? And we said yes. He didn't go, okay, well, you need to figure out how to get that coffee. No, Evan came to us with a bag, printed and designed, the coffee roasted, and all we had to do was pick a quantity. Like, so then the answer is yes. Let's do it, and let's go, and let's see. And then we tested, and it did well. And then, Evan turns around a week later and says, I'm creating a coffee company. Okay, great. Fuck yeah, we're in. Like, sounds good. And he went and did it. And then he put it on our laps. Here you guys go. This is our plan. This is what we're doing. He didn't just go, okay, let's all right, who's going to do what, So, I can't tell you how many times, that's happened. Like, people will get me on the phone and they have no answers to the first questions, I start asking of, okay, well, do you have a prototype? Well, no. Okay, well, you haven't done anything yet. Like, so you really have to, you've got to do the work. No one else is going to. If it's your idea, nobody else wants to. Thinking that's another common misconception. People think, oh, I have a great idea, I'm going to pitch it to somebody and they're going to do everything. It's like, no, like, there's 100 times somebody has pitched me something that I went, yeah, that's a good idea. And they're like, oh, well, are you in? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I've got my own shit I want to do. Like, and I'm not obsessing over what you are. Like, you're supposed to, that's your thing. Go do it. Like, it's a good idea, but I don't want it.
You please be obsessed with making that so that I can then have the product that you're talking about. It's like you need to have, like, people need to have skin in the game, right? Like, you have to have actual boots on the ground doing the work that you're doing, making the thing. I always say, do the work that's right in front of you and see what happens, and like chunk it out and just do the first thing. We all listen to these podcasts or read these books. I was talking with Paul Alcoby last week. It's like we all read Ryan Holiday and Tim Ferriss and listen to Gary Vee and listen to Jocko and all these people. And we're always thinking about this far future state where we'll have all of these things. But if you actually retroactively just like pick a person that you admire as like an artist or an entrepreneur, whoever it is, and you look back at their career, it was just like you said, one step at a time. Well, I learned how to build an e-com site on something that was lower risk than Black Rifle Coffee, but now that we're here, like, that's taken care of. I know how to do it.
Yeah,
so now I can
save
move on.
Those books for when you're truly in a strat. Like if you're starting out, you don't need that shit right now. Preaching like strategy and like way up here. No, like get on YouTube and learn how meta advertising works. Spend fucking 3 months diving into Meta University and learn how all of that works. Because if you start understanding how to advertise and buy ads and create ads and you really study just the data behind that, well, then it doesn't matter what your business or service is. Now you know how to advertise it. So it's like, do the work that needs to be done right in front of you. Like, I'll give another example of, how many times I get hit up to sponsor something. Well, we were just looking to see if Black Rifle would sponsor this. And I say, okay, send me your deck or your plan. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, this isn't how this works. We don't just hand you money for you to go do something you want to do and wear our logo. Like, you have to provide me with, how many people are you planning on reaching? How are you reaching them? What content is created out of this? What is coming back to us for us to share on our stuff? Because we sponsored this thing. And I will tell you, less than 1% of people that ask me to sponsor things have done the work to actually build a plan as to why that would be worth the money to sponsor it.
Yeah, the lack of actual business ethic in our community right now is a little frustrating, because you're trying to have some of these conversations and you're having an entirely different conversation than the other person, and you're like, what are we even doing here?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's brutal. So what's next? What's I'm gonna like wrap things up here. Like, what are you working on right now? What are you excited about? What do you got coming up for the rest of this year?
I mean, the big project is we're launching a whole new property that's independent. So people that have followed us over the years know that, we started as entertainers and then really got bogged down with the business. Well, we're coming back as entertainers now, and we're launching a whole new comedy channel that will be coming up, where we're going to go back to really making fun of everything and being funny. That's not tied to any company or brand. So we're going to be independent, personalities that are writing comedy and making funny things. And that's kind of that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about going back and and diving back into film production myself, like where I'm holding cameras and editing. I went and filmed with JP Sears last week and just had a blast going back to a super micro crew, not being on the big sets that we've been on the last few years. So that's kind of where I want to live. I want to go back to making videos. I want to go back to, speaking, going around and kind of sharing all the stuff I know, because I don't keep it locked in a box. I don't care. I'll give you all the answers you'd ever want, because again, it doesn't matter to me if you know the blueprints. You build whatever you want. You're not.
Yeah, it's like we've already talked about here. Like people are trying to give away all of the secrets to be successful, and most people aren't even taking advantage of them anyway. So it's like here it is.
Well, I mean, I do see a lot of motivated people that are out there thinking, but I would advise against paying for these seminars and paying for listening to these chats and buying these books when it's like, you're not there yet. Like, go and cut your teeth. Do it. Do exactly. Don't read about it. Do it. Listen to this show for free. Cause you have plenty of people. I see all your guests. They all have a piece of information to offer somebody that if you pick out. So it's like, work on what you need to work on now. Work on something that truly moves you forward. Don't do this empty work. Don't go spend $3,500, $4,000 to an entrepreneur workshop weekend in Orlando, Florida. And you paid your travel and your hotel. And then you sit in these briefings all day where somebody that's hyper successful goes, I get up early and I work hard and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, spend your time and your money on building your idea, building your product, and building your plan, and then do it.
Yeah, that's it. Just do it. They are, there's a reason that Nike's slogan is just do it. Have you found that, like with this comedy channel that you're building, or is it going to be veteran and military focused, or just comedy in general and kind of everything?
Yeah, it's SNL. It's I Think You Should Leave. It's Key and Peele.
Yeah.
So we're going high quality produce sketch comedy with all your favorite characters. Really just think Key and Peele.
Have you found that, you were at the forefront of veteran comedy, veteran content creation, veteran shows across like podcasts and YouTube and video and on all of that stuff? Have you found that? Well, I mean, first of all, like, what does that feel like as you kind of like look back on that? Is that something that I know there's obviously been highs and lows and good and bad and kind of all of that stuff, but now we're so saturated with it. How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I don't think we're too saturated with it, because I look at that in the aspect of I'm kind of disappointed and sad because there is nobody pushing us. Like, I challenge all you fuckers out there. Let's go. Where's the new Matt? Where's the 25-year-old kid that wants to be funny and wants to make rad videos and do cool things and make funny rap videos or music or whatever? Where's that person at? Like, where is anybody? Like, you take Heather's witch skit, Hang the Witch, and you go watch that. Show me somebody else that's doing something anywhere that quality in the veteran space. Show me anybody else that's writing comedy and producing scripted skits. Like, that's where I'm disappointed that nobody is on our heels, because that's what's going to make us better, and it's going to make them better too. Is if people started copying us. Like, what sucks to me is like TikTok fucked up social media for us, because what it did is it got everybody obsessed with really shitty content, reacting to fucking videos, like just stupid dances, these dumb, like what it did is it took Vine and like revitalized Vine, but then made it shittier. So it's like now the only thing that gets views is doing the stupid, challenge where you smack each other with a fucking tortilla. So it's like, I want to go backwards when YouTube in 2010 was guys like Corridor Digital and Rocket Jump and Freddie Wong and Epic Mealtime, where they were making really awesome original shit that inspired you to go pick up a camera and try to make really awesome original shit. Like, bring that back, because right now the landscape is just trash. It's boring and it's not entertaining. So it's like, I will trade the views all day long. I rather get 1,000 views on an original script that I wrote and that I had shot and I edited and I put out as something funny than I would me, with my head in the bottom corner talking about a guy crashing on a bike going, "Oh God." Like, that's not like, I'm in the art of it.
Yeah. Gauntlet thrown. We're gonna clip that one out and put it on Instagram and probably read the comment section on that one. But it's
And
a
I'm
good
not
point.
dogging anybody that does, the guys that do that. There are guys that have made their names in doing things like that, and that's great. But like, I just really want to see other people come in on our tails in scripted comedy and like and skits and original. Like, I want to see original shit. Like I don't like the stagnant of what the space is.
Yeah, it is something that surprises me because I thought for sure that you would have unlocked more, but people just kind of throw stones at this point
Well, I mean, I'll give one example. Nick Palmisano just produced Office Joe, 6-7 episodes. Okay, that's awesome. Go do that. Like, I'm now I'll take that back of like, yes, I know your average person out there can't go produce a show, for 7 episodes, but pick up your camera, learn how to edit off the same people I did. Zach King, Final Cut King, watched every video he had to offer. Andrew Kramer watched every video he had to offer. I learned how to make film off of YouTube. You can too. Film Riot. Go on Film Riot. And Ryan Connolly, like, he will teach you how to make a movie. Just spend a weekend like obsessing over that. Put down fucking PlayStation 5 and learn something, God damn it.
Yeah, no, for real. I mean, that was like when I got out of film school and got into advertising. The first producer that hired me in advertising was like, "Hey, man, you should work in advertising. Quit waiting tables and tending bar. Work in advertising so that you can learn the craft, get paid, work with people who get paid really well, and then you all can make your indie shit on the weekends." And those people won't mind working for free because they get paid to work for the man 5 days a week, and they don't get to be as creative as they want to be. Build that community, learn the craft, work the craft, and make your own shit. And we've kind of fallen off in the last couple of years, but there was like, we were averaging like 1.5, high quality cinematic short films a year as a part of the rest of our output with all the advertising shit that we were doing. And that was always the goal for me, was like, I want to get into whatever field that I want to work in creatively to get better at the craft, but then also to be more prolific and make more of the things that I want to make and have more of the conversations that I want to have, not just as like an end result of like, oh, cool, I got a cool job, I'm done here.
Hell yeah, dude, 100%. I've said that a lot before. Use your skills in something that is making money, but it's fueling what you're doing. One business that I didn't mention that I forgot was Botstick Collective with Gary Stevens, our creative director of Black Rifle. Like, him and I had an advertising company for the tactical industry. And what we were doing is we were taking contracts to just buy new gear. Like, we weren't profiting off of it. We would take everything we made to buy a better camera, to buy a better lens, to buy a new computer. Like, that's it. Use something to fuel what you're doing. And then eventually you'll be able to just do what you do as a profession, if you're doing it right.
Yeah. Well said, and probably a pretty good place to end. Before I get to the open-ended question that I asked to end each episode, where can folks find you? Where do you want to drive traffic? Where can I collaborate on these posts?
Just Instagram, JT Article 15. That's all I live is there now. Just consolidated.
Just inside of an Instagram square. All right, JT, to end each episode, I ask an open-ended question. What's on your heart and mind for our community right now? Could be a piece of advice, something you want to get off your chest, or something you want to reiterate from what we've already talked about today. But JT, what's on your heart? What's on your mind?
Well, I mean, I just think like we are in a very odd time. Like, I think the DoD, obviously a lot of the people that watch this come from the veteran space. So the Department of Defense has a close thing to us, and they're in complete shambles right now. I mean, it's sad because it's like every day we're being shown that you know we were told for so long that there's a right and there's a wrong, and you always do the right, and now we're being shown that, oh no, when you have an administration that thinks one way, you just got to do everything that they say and do. And I hate it. I hate that. Like integrity has to be brought back to the DoD because it has been completely lost. And the leaders, should be embarrassed right now because all the people looking up at you don't trust you, and they see right through you. So it's like that right there is in a horrible state. And I really hope we get back on track in the right direction, because I want a strong military. I want an effective military, and I want us to fly, fight, and win.
Yeah. Air Force motto right there. Yeah, I agree. I really don't want people to get, you and Dan talked about it, I think last year, or end of last year, middle of last year, just like how, no shit, we have a recruiting crisis because people watch the drawdown in Afghanistan and watch the leadership and everything that you just described. And I get that, but there is also a better way. And as a country, our Constitution and as a military, the way that we operate is more important and is more transcendent than the humans that fail to implement it. And so there are still adventures to be had and values to be won serving in the military. So I hope we can figure out as a community how to help get the recruiting back on track so that it doesn't get too more fucked up. I don't know. You and I probably aren't going to solve it, but
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. All right, brother. Appreciate your time. We'll see you.
Thanks, Carey. Bye.